I think the greatest gift that Ignatius gives to us is the gift of discernment, the notion of discernment. Why I think that is a great gift specifically to secondary ed, to kids and to adults, is that it asks us to stop and listen.
Our world is so fast, and there's so much that can drown it out, that it's amazing that any of us are, practicing spirituality. But that's the hopeful side, is that still God finds ways to sort of bore through that and get to us and sort of wrap his hands around our throats sometimes.
It's the process of trying to listen and discriminate how God is calling from what something else might be calling.
You have some decisions to make. Should I go out for football or not? Well, let's not go by whim, but go by, bring God into it, in your discernment.
There is no difference between what you most deeply want and what God wants for you. So you kind of, find that, you test that every day.
We all have desires, and many of them are good, and some of them aren't. And which spirit is the source of these desires?
Part of them which tends toward the good and is maybe more generous, more thoughtful, more caring about other people, less self-centered. And there is a part which is more evil, part which will use other people, will take advantage of situations, will go for the pleasure of the moment rather than what is better for me in the long run and better for other people in the long run.
You're not just deciding where you're going to go to college. You're not just deciding, what you want to do with your life. The goal here is to really look at your gifts, your talents, and then to be very prayerful and reflective about that. I think that's hard to say to kids. Have you prayed about that? I don't know if kids really even see that notion. So I think you have to come in a totally different door and say, where do you find energy? Where do you find excitement? Where do you find life as you think about what you want to do?
You test that every day. You watch people become the truth of who they are, and you watch them inhabit it, and you just kind of go, boy, it doesn't get better than this,
But the point has to be trying to find God in the midst of the decision that is being made. So most of the processes that we use, and certainly this would be true of the processes Ignatius figured out, are designed to help us listen for God.
There's so many opportunities in a high school student's life to practice discernment. When they come in and talk about their friends to a teacher, when they come in and talk about a problem that they're having, to really take the time to not solve it, but to invite them to listen to what's happening in their life and what the signs are, where God is speaking to them.
And so if you've tried to find God in prayer and it didn't happen, it didn't take, go back again, and then go back again, and then go back again. And use the patience of Abraham. Abraham was promised, God said to Abraham, I'll give you this land. He said to him at Shechem, I'm going to give you this land. And 900 years later, here is God saying, here, I fulfilled your promise, or my promise to you. Here's the land that I promised Abraham. But it took 900 years. So it's going to take a long time. If you want a relationship with God, it's going to take a lot of patience.
And what it does is that you're inviting God into the process. You're inviting God into the process when you have courage to really stop and listen. Not only to all the people at the table, but to listen to where God's moving once that is over.
Sometimes it's the encounter with suffering, sometimes it's the encounter with love, sometimes it's the encounter with beauty, sometimes it's the encounter with something that's profoundly meaningful that I've never encountered.
Mary Albeck told the story about a kid coming in who was crying, who lost her friend, last year. We won't think, is necessarily a big deal. She never really dealt with it. The kid was standing at her door crying, and she said, come on in and let's talk. But what was unique about her reflection on that was she didn't say anything necessarily to that kid. She just listened to that kid and then pointed to places where maybe God is present, and not in any kind of phony way, but very real and very concrete.
You want to use a process where you write down all the reasons for and all the reasons against and kind of weigh them prayerfully, that's perfectly fine. That's a version that Ignatius used. But you could use other processes if they help you listen for what God is calling you for.